Steve, thanks for taking time to do this with us tonight.
No trouble, Brad. How you doing?
Doing well. What's the chapter in the book that you're going to write someday about the draft lottery? What's the title of that chapter going to be called?
Uh, I have to give that some thought. I don't, I'm not much of a writer.
If you could put into context or put into words what this night means to you. I know you said last year, like, listen, you can find a good player at any position. Is this at all frustrating when they change the process and you see Buffalo land what should have been yours last year and this night doesn't go your way?
No, there's no sense complaining about it. It is, the system is what it is. Good for Buffalo. Again, wish them well. They're lucky to have the first pick. And we have the sixth pick in the draft. We didn't go backwards. We'll do our best to make a good selection. And you just, whether it's the sixth, the first, the fifth, whatever pick you have, you got to find players. And the system is the same for everyone. And we just got to find a way to get good players. So not much you can do about it. I'm not losing a minute's sleep over it.
You had a smirk on your face after the selection went on the air. There were great reactions. Jim Nill ripped his headphones out. Now you go to work, right? And you find that next guy. When you go through the next couple of weeks here, what are the top priorities for you, your group, and after such a weird year, where does your attention go now?
Well, we've got a lot to work on, actually. Kind of still winding down some of the season-ending stuff. We internally have a lot of things to do. We've got a lot of our players' contracts that need to be renegotiated or players signed. We'll start to get to work at that. Got to prepare for the draft, prepare for the expansion draft, and same as usual, and then get ready for free agency. So we have a lot of time, but there's a lot to be done, and we just kind of chip away each day at a little bit of everything.
Thanks, Steve.
Next up, Art Regner, DetroitRedWing.com.
Hi there, Steve. Well, I guess the good thing is at least you did go down. I think this is the first time in Red Wing history you didn't actually go down in the draft lottery. You stayed at number 6 where you were slotted. I'm kind of curious, when you look at it that way and it being such a weird year, how comfortable are you with the whole process that you had guys in Europe, Kronwall was in Sweden the whole year, that you're as prepared for this draft as you can be considering the circumstances?
Yeah, we've tried to make the most of it, and wherever there was hockey being played, if we could be there in person, we had people there, and if we couldn't be there in person, for the most part, I think we've had access to watch it on video. It's not ideal, but you do the best you can and make sure you know the players, and so that's all we've done. Every team's in the same boat, and we try to find some players based on what we've seen. So again. I think at this stage we're as prepared as we can be. I think I know there's an event going on in Erie with some of the Ontario kids right now that some of our staff are at and watching that. And after that, it's pretty much wrapped up, and we get ready. Put our list together and get ready for the actual draft.
Steve, you've been pretty upfront saying, look, we need to improve in all areas. But is there one specific position that you're really kind of honed in on and looking at? I know you're not going to tell me, but is there one place or one player that, boy, you hope drops to you at 6, or maybe is going to be that diamond in the rough?
Well, no, again, we do need help in every area, and the reality is, whoever we pick, in 1, 2, 3 years when they're ready to play, things can change. So our philosophy or plan will be to pick the best prospect on the board. I don't think we're in a position with the 6th pick to say, oh, we definitely need this position. So, Drapes and the guys have continue to finalize the list here over the next month and get ready to go. But again, our intention will be to pick the best prospect we think is available when we pick 6th.
I know Håkan Andersson has Europe locked down, and it's a legendary scout for the Red Wings, but how beneficial was it to have Kronwall in Sweden, being able not only to check up on maybe potential guys you're going to draft, but guys like Veleno and Mo Seider and Berggren and Raymond? I mean, having an actual real life Red Wing there in the flesh, being able to talk to them.
Krona is really mainly focused. His time is spent with our draft picks, our prospects. So that's he's fantastic. He's really enthusiastic about it. He's great. He has a great way with the kids. And, Nick, he's a professional and a bright guy. So we've been very lucky that he's really jumped into it and is as enthusiastic as he is about it. He's done a great job, and we're lucky to have him there. He's as I say, he's focused mostly on player development, and we do have several players in Sweden. But also, he gets a chance to watch a lot of the pro hockey there, as well as the draft. But we have our amateur scouts all over Europe. That's their priority, and that's what their job is, to find the prospects for the draft.
I could ask you a lot more questions, Steve, but I promise this will be the last one. Restricted free agents. Will you start negotiating with them now? Will you be able? Are you planning on trying to get some of those guys under lock and key before within the next month or so?
Well, we'll get started. I can't tell you it's like tomorrow morning, but we'll get started on some of these things over in the near future, and they'll get done when they get done. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Next up, Helene St. James, Detroit Free Press.
Hi, Steve. Moritz Seider was a 6 overall pick, and it seems like we can always look back on drafts and redo them, and players would have gone higher maybe than where they originally went. I mean, leading into that, how confident are you that you'll get a good player who can maybe move the needle on the rebuild?
Well, I think we'll get a good prospect. Again, I've off the top of my head, I don't have a list in front of me of the kids, but I've seen the majority of those kids that'll be in that 1 to 10 range. So again, we're excited about the possibilities that'll be there. Ultimately, I think more so this year than any other year, you're going to have vastly different lists, even with the I think within the the people within the media that are responsible for their outlets for their draft lists. You'll see radical differences this year, just based on which league these kids were playing in and how much they played or didn't play. So this one's going to be maybe there'll be more surprises than ever, I guess. But I think, again, sitting at 6, there's players we think will be there, and multiple players, and we'll be excited about the pick. And ultimately, do they move the needle? We hope they do. When that happens, we're not sure.
And I'm curious, you have considerable experience now as a general manager, but you draw at all on your experience as a player in shaping a rebuild? You know what you went through as a player, you know what happened with the 1989 draft. Like, does that ever play in your mind when you're shaping this team?
Well, I'm dying to have a 1989 draft. Yeah, let's hope we have one. But at the time, I was on the team. We didn't. You're curious about the draft as a player on any team. You take note when the draft comes, see who you got, really with your first round pick, and the kids you don't really know. So I think I had played against Sergey at the World Championships. Vladdy, I think, was on that team as well. So I knew them. I played against Nick the year after he was drafted. But going into the draft, the player that I knew the most was Sergey, and he was obviously one of the best players on their men's team, which was a tremendous team at that time. So, at somewhere along the line, if we could get a draft that's even half of that, obviously we'd be thrilled.
I guess my point is more to that, how tough it can be even when you have a draft like that. It was still 8 more years before you lifted the cup, that this is a long-term project, much as we all would like to see immediate.
Yeah. Again, everybody, somebody will ask when you're going to make the playoffs, what's your timeline here or there? I can't give one, because it's a guess. We're going to continue. We don't, now we know we have the 6th pick in the draft. Who we're picking, we don't know that today. We'll know that in 2 months, so where we're picking in the draft next year, I have no idea. So we just kind of stick with the method or the methodical approach. We'll continue to draft, and hopefully we get really lucky one year and we get 4 or 5 players or 3 players, and that speeds it up a little bit. But unfortunately, it does take a long time, and if you get it done quicker, you were luckier than most.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
Next question, Max Bultman, The Athletic.
Hey, Steve, I'm just curious, how how you view kind of the strength of this class overall. I know year to year it can kind of be overstated that one year is a really great year and one year is not, but how do you kind of view the top 10, I guess, of this year?
It's interesting. Again, Max, I don't know. There's been draft classes that, in the last 10 years that we look back and we said, wow, at the time, this is a tremendous class. And we're excited about all the different players. And you look back 10 years later and you go, oh, review them and they weren't as good as you thought. So again, I really don't know. Again, I've seen most of the kids that are in the top 10 that we think are in the top 10 anyway. I don't know what other teams are thinking. And you're going to get a pretty good prospect and go from there. So they're all different positions, potentially all different positions, maybe not goaltenders. I don't know. So anyway, it's again, just unusual with some players not playing, some players playing in a men's league, some playing just different leagues. It's going to be just everybody's lists will be so different and vary from list to list, and there'll be maybe a lot of surprises in everybody's eyes when the draft actually takes place.
I think you've done about 10 or so of these now. How do you think you're different as a drafter than you were at the beginning, or what changes, I guess, have you made along the way?
You know what, Max, I don't know if people understand, like your amateur scouts run the draft. You're the GM, you announce the first pick. Apart from that, you're not heavily involved in it. You just, I'll take the credit when the guys turn out really well, and I'll pass the blame on to the scouting staff when the guys don't turn out. But that your amateur scouting staff runs the draft. The GM, how involved are you? You may be involved in some concepts, but in general, that's what you pay your amateur scouting staff to do. So how have I changed? And I'm not really sure. You really wrestle with how much influence you want to have versus not saying a word. And there's been times at various picks where I've spoken up, and I'm glad I did. And then looking back, there's times when I have not spoken up and wish I did, and vice versa. So again, you let your guys, trust your guys, let them do their job, and give them some parameters of what you want to do, and go from there.
And then last thing for me, I think when you look back at the last, I don't know how long, recent history, most of the teams that have won have had at least a top 2 pick on their roster. Are you confident that a Stanley Cup winner can be built if you don't have one of those?
For sure. Yeah, we're gonna do the best we can, and if the plan is to be really bad and get a first or second pick, it's hard to get. As Red Wing fans, we all sit here and watch the last 5 years. We haven't been able to get a top 3 pick, and we'll find a way. You look back on the teams that have been there. Carolina won the cup, I believe, without a top pick. It does happen, and we'll build a good team, and we'll figure out a way to, we'll get a superstar along the way in the draft somewhere.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Next up, Ted Colfin, Detroit News.
Hey, Steve. Hey, Max kind of stole a lot of my thunder, but I was just curious, like rounds 2 through 7, how important are those picks for you guys? It seems like obviously through the years, the organization's been built on a lot of those types of picks there late in the draft. And is it going to be tougher to find people because of the way things shook down this year and stuff?
Again, Ted, I think you can look at it 2 ways. It's potentially tougher to find people, or you might find a gem later on that didn't play much, that maybe you saw a year ago, that one of our scouts saw a year ago, and it says, hey, I'd really like to pick this player. So you're going to look at it 2 ways. Again, is that you're going to get lucky or you're going to get unlucky, and I do think there'll be some really good players for whatever reason that are picked later in the draft. Maybe they didn't play at all. Maybe they played a little bit, or they played in a men's league in Europe and hardly got on the ice, and you're going to wake up in 3 years and go, wow, I had no idea this guy was going to be this good. But so, generally in a normal year, as our scouts would see these kids play a lot in every single league. You wouldn't. This year, some of the kids, the Ontario kids, haven't played. I think they're playing in Erie for a couple of weeks here, and a lot of the leagues shut down early, and so Again, I think there's going to be kids that go much later in the draft than they normally would have if they got a chance to play all year, and the same way, kids will go a lot higher just basically because the teams got to see them a lot.
So, thanks, Steve.
Our last question is from Ansar Khan, M Live.
Yeah, hi, Steve. I know you're going to take the best player regardless of position, but in that first 6 to 8 range, I mean, do you see a lot of defensemen? Is that the strength of the draft at the top there?
I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say the strength at the draft is any particular position. I think there's a variety of guys that could go in any order. I don't know what other teams are thinking. I have a pretty good idea what our guys are thinking, and haven't really finalized it yet. But there's players at every position, and they could go in any order in that top 10.
So there's other than maybe the first couple of picks, you see not much separation there in the top 10. I mean, players could pretty much see players going any order after the first couple of picks.
I don't even know about the first couple of picks. Who are they going to be? You seem to know.
No, I'm asking you.
I'm asking you.
Okay.
Who are the first 2 picks?
Owen Power, the first pick would be my projection.
Okay. Who's second?
I'll go with Edvinsson.
Okay. Interesting. We'll note that.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all the questions we have for tonight. Thanks to everyone for joining us, and thank you, Steve, for your time.
I appreciate it, everyone. Thank you.